Tennis betting can be highly profitable. Best of two sports are the easiest to learn. In this upload, I'm going to share with you all the understanding that's needed to profit. You will be learning the metrics and why it is easy to beat the sportsbook's algorithm. I'm Tony from betting-analyst. Let's crack on. So if you're ready to rock and roll, let's begin with the obvious, the head-to-head. My natural starting point would be past meetings. Now you're going to have to take into consideration whether they took place recently or a long time back. What was the surface that day? And bear in mind, there is more to it than just a clay surface, hardcourt, grass or indoors, right? We're going to cover that more later. The level of tournament. The main tour goes from a low level 250 to Grand Slams. Now data proves more money plus more points equals more effort from the top players. And what was the actual result? And you're going to have to take on board circumstances which might have led to the result. Again, we'll cover that as we progress. Secondly, is going to be the ranking. What rank is the player going into the match? And just for info, you can use live-tennis.eu for updated rankings. So they're going to progress as the week goes on. Consider also the ranking history of a player. It could reveal whether they are progressive, regressive or relatively consistent. When assessing a player's ranking, consider things like their schedule. It's very simple. Some players can keep a busy schedule, they turn up every week, and obviously their ranking is going to be higher because of this. Whereas other players, they suffer more injuries, they have to take time off. So just bear that in mind because Karolina Muchova comes to mind. Ultimately, you want to make your own rankings. In doing so, do separate rankings for each surface. And on that note, the third point is the surface. Someone at rank 30 might be worth rank 20 on clay, but only 40 on hardcourt. You will need to consider the level of tournaments that they've been involved in. And what about if a player won 65% of their matches on clay, but most of them were in challengers or in qualifying? Obviously, that means less. Not all courts are created equal. To make a long story short, the surface could be slow or fast. So do your research, figure out the effects of each surface for yourself, each tournament. While it will mean some effort on your part, it's a process. Once you've learned it, you're not going to forget. So, it's an investment. Then you need to also take on board the overall form, the surface form and tournament form, because it can all be better assessed after going through a player's profile. I will cover that as we go through, obviously. So let's go a little bit deeper. Some of the stuff that the average gambler probably didn't consider. And one of them is tournament history. And by that I mean how a player performed at this tournament in the past. The horses for courses theory. If they won it once, they can win it again. And also just consider how deep they went. You will need to consider circumstances such as well-being, any ranking changes in players' profile, because it could have gone up and down. Travelling, weather, how this year's tournament stacks against ones in the past. They could have higher, lower, same level ranking opponents. These are all stuff that you need to take on board. And what about motivation levels? Top players are not going to be making a big effort at 250 tournaments. While they might be able to win that match at 80%, don't expect peak performances from top players at low-level tournaments. If the world number 10 was meeting the number 50 ranked player in a Grand Slam, the 100% odds would probably be 125 and 5, whereas at a 250 tournament, it would be 150 and 3 because of the expectancy value. To cut a long story short, favourites come out at the top of big ones, but you will find distinct betting value in taking the outsiders at lesser tournaments. And then, of course, this consistency. Some players are simply inconsistent. While others play to the same level each week, you've got to look at the player's profile and try to establish what they're up to. From a betting perspective, inconsistent can actually be good. And that's why we specialise more in WTA. Less predictability makes it hard on sportsbooks to price matches. Then we have the visuals. Watch for players who are bandaged or not moving freely. Now, this could be part of an excuse process. They're preparing this excuse in advance. So watching is important. Even if a bandaged player advances to the next round, they could struggle against a better opponent. And then, of course, is fatigue. Did they have a tough last round? The time, the scoreline. How did they appear to finish that match? Ready to go again or tired? And what about the turnaround time? If you're betting in play, body language is super important. Watch for mood shifts, fatigue. Consider how the points are being won. Visuals are also your biggest advantage over the sportsbooks. Their algorithm is only considering the scoreline, points won, serves, etc. And finally, on the visuals, you need to watch for being on an advantageous side of the course, especially if you're doing the in-play betting again, because the wind, the sun, a number of factors could be involved. Let's also consider the server stats and receiving. Now, look for a player's average and see how they are compared to those at the current tournament. Conditions might be having an effect, or a player might just be simply either A, finding the ball well, or struggling. Some players have a total reliability on their serve, and if it's not working, they will struggle. Former number 1 Karolina Pliskova is the prime example. I won't dwell on it, but the player's profile will reveal what to expect. And then, of course, you've got the travelling time and preparation. One thing is certain, professional tennis players rack up a lot of air miles. Watch for changes in time zones. It's not easy going from China to play in the US. Consider the time of the journey. Also, sometimes traveling 3,000 miles is quicker than going to a tournament that is only 1,000 miles away if it's in a remote place. How long has a player had to readjust to the new circumstances, the new situation? Would they have had time to properly train and get a feel for the surface and the conditions? Here is a power tip. Watch for players who went deep in the previous weekend. They won't have had time to properly prepare and they might suffer from fatigue. Winning on Sunday in the US and playing your next game on Tuesday in Asia isn't going to be ideal. Whereas the opposite is true of players who didn't get far in the previous tournament. They're going to come there, they've had plenty of time to prepare and they're going to be fresh. And what about the time between matches, tournament interruptions? A player's chance could be diminished by the schedule. Sometimes they might be asked to play twice a day, if it rains or if it's been late into the night, schedules have not been met. So just bear that in mind. Just a quick plug, for those wanting more out of betting, consider applying for our mentorship program. There's details on our website. So let me quickly touch on the third line metrics that you'll need to understand. And one of them could be market watch. I would suggest sign up to Pinnacle Odds Dropper. By being on the ball with odds changes, you can simply take advantage of informed money. Pinnacle Odds Dropper also offers an opening line service. This could be the only confirmation bias you need to take advantage of softbook opening lines. Consider the number of 2 or 3 setters a player is involved in. This is useful for totals betting, and if someone is consistently going the distance in matches, they are often worth taking on in the handicap when favoured. Or the opposite is also true when they are the betting outsider. They could get within the handicap more often than they should be. And what about the time of the day? Playing under floodlights late at night might suit some players better than others. Try to figure it out. And what about territory, the country? Playing at home could be an extra incentive, but it could also work against a player. The added pressure of being expected to perform well in front of their own people might be too much. And what about retirements? When some players are losing, they throw in the white flag and retire. In handicap betting or totals, then that means the bet is going to be void. And finally is the priority. At the majors, some players focus on doubles while they play in singles. Priority number 1 is the doubles. Katarzynikova springs to mind. Also, the opposite is true. If a player starts to go deep in the singles, they might want to lose or withdraw from the double. I'm going to start off with Karolina Muchova. So if we go back to, if we look at her ranking, she's ranked 22 at the moment. Her top ranking was position 8. But what's important with her is that you go through this summary here and you actually look at the sort of amount of tournaments that she played in. So look, in 2024, she won 21 of her 29 matches. And she played in just 8 tournaments, but she's still got a ranking of 22. So, you can safely mark her up. If we actually go down down and look at much over, right, she didn't come in until the 25th of June, and then she played to the sort of quarter-final of Eastbourne. She didn't get far in London, and she didn't get far in Paris after making the final of Palermo. But she did come good at the sort of US Open, right? She made the semi-final there, and then she made the final in Beijing and the semi-final to end the season in Ningbo. What was concerning is she retired at that stage, so, you know, again, proving that she's got physical problems. She's a player who you can definitely rank higher. I just want to pick up on Tatiana Maria, right? She's like a 37-year-old, mother of 2 kids, still on the tour. You can see her prize money there, 5.7 million is not massive, and a lot of that actually came from reaching the quarterfinal of Wimbledon once. But yeah, you know, what you can see with this lady is that last year, 2024, she won 36 matches and she lost 36 matches. Her actual winning percentage is 55.6%. Now, a lot of those matches are on lower grade tours. So, you know, where, for example, here you can see that she won a W75 at Ternava to end the season. She's a very busy lady, as you can see there, right? She played, 36 tournaments, 31 tournaments, 30 tournaments. Sorry, that's how many games she lost. So she probably even played more tournaments if she won 1 or 2 of those. But just going down, just to sort of give you a couple of examples, what I wanted to talk through there. As you can see, she's won Surbiton, or at least she made the final of it, but then she struggled to go very far in Nottingham a week later, right? She's come out in Barranquilla, and she's reached the final, and then in Monterrey she was beaten in the first round. It was the same in Guadalajara, even though it's, you know, she didn't have to go very far for the second week, but she made the final and then tied by the second week. So you can just see how sort of playing too many matches affects you. You know, if you've gone deep into a tournament, you don't have properly time to prepare, but if you haven't gone that far, then you do. So I want to use Katerina Siniakova just to prove that the numbers don't always mean something. As you can see here at the bottom right, she actually won more matches, or a higher percentage of matches on clay, 63.3% compared to 56.45% on grass. However, if you go through sort of clay wins, a lot of them, including last year's tournament winning leader, was at lower graded tournaments. If we then go through grass tournament matches, right, and we start, you can see, you know, I mean, she started her life at Wimbledon Juniors, right? She's progressed along the years. She's beaten players like, you can see here, look, in Bad Homburg, where she went on to reach the final. She beat Jessica Pegula. She's beaten Emma Navarro on the way to winning Bad Homburg in 2023, and then she reached the quarterfinal of Berlin in 2024. With Qin Wen-Zheng and Emma Navarro amongst those that she beat. She also beat Ludmila Samsonova at last year's Bad Homburg. So a specialist doubles player, you can see our actual ranking, right? She's ranked 45, 27 was her highest rank. And yeah, you know, I mean, she tends to balance out each year. You know, she doesn't win that higher percentage of matches, but when she's on, you know, her specialist tournaments, she's worth sort of following. And I would recommend watching her on grass. As for inconsistent, you can't beat Elena Ostapenko. Just look at this, right? She's the former number 5. She's won over 16 million in prize money. She's still got a WTA ranking of 15. She went 31-19 last year, and if you go down, she actually lost 5 of her last 6 matches. But just look at the players that she lost against. Stakusic, I mean, she should be thrashing her. What about Avenius and Taylor Townsend, Osorio Serrano, all players with much lower rankings. I mean, with due respect, she should be beating the likes of Katie Bolter as well. But, you know, this is sort of attitude. She just doesn't care less, right? If they're the smaller tournaments, she's not going to give it a massive effort. And I'm afraid only she knows when she's going to win. Do your research on this player, because she's very interesting. You can catch her sometimes when she's really sort of got the bite, and but otherwise, you know, you just want to be wary when she's short odds. Don't be putting them in your accumulators, whatever. As always, we hope you got something from this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing a lot more now. I'm free. I can just concentrate on doing the education on YouTube. So make sure that you subscribe to benefit. That's it for now. You're through to boot camp again. See you in the next one soon. Take care. Bye bye.